Hello, Dr. Spectred, and welcome to your deck review. And I just want to say, out the gate, you a freak. No addendum. This is hilarious and freaky, and I was completely against you, and then completely sold, and then completely against you again, and then completely sold by the end of your primer, which, by the way, they sent in a Google Doc that is closer to a manifesto than anything else. So let's talk about this deck, which was born by somebody who loves Birthing Pod. So why on earth is Miss Bumbleflower here? Why, she draws cards. So what they have built is an incredibly reliable engine that will spend the first few turns ramping, then will find Vanifar. Now, Prime Speaker Vanifar lets you tap and sack another creature to get a creature that costs one plus whatever you sacked. So you sack a 2 mana thing, you get a 3 mana thing. You sack a 3 mana thing, you get a 4 mana thing. And we have a ladder of things we can turn our 1 mana dorks into to continually untap Vanifar, chain up, at which point we will have a mixture of Karmic Guide and Silver Surfer. You don't need to understand the details. All you need to understand is the end point of this deck is they can Vanifar as much as they want, and they can pop out about 4 to 7 clones of whatever they want, and they can break the legend rule, and they can reset these cards as able. And so you may be thinking, Mauled, why would they send the deck to you other than to see you out of breath? It is because we are going to try to give them a suite of interchangeable threats they can use to play at different power levels, because this is purposely not infinite. This is purposely not using game changers. They want to be able to play it at 2, and then next week they want to be able to play it at 4. Then next week they want to be able to play it at 3. So we need to figure out at 2, what can we put in the villain of the week area or anywhere in this deck where we can take this long Vanifar turn and then, in their words, have the table go, okay, that was kind of funny. And then we want to be able to have things that, at bracket 3 and 4 will close the door a little bit quicker. I'm gonna focus mostly on. I'm gonna focus mostly on the bracket 2 stuff. I think it's gonna be most difficult to figure out stuff that is funny, not necessarily stuff that is good. I think for stuff that is good, we could go to like some type of combo line pretty quickly. Like, I think I'm not sure exactly how this combo would interact on mana, but my thought for bracket 4 would be, or for high bracket threats, is you have a pocket Kinnan. And I feel like between what you're able to do with Karmic Guide, Silver Surfer, maybe we wouldn't have haste. Maybe we would need. So maybe Kinnan wouldn't work. Because I was thinking of some type of like, well, surely with all these untappers, we can float infinite mana, and then you can just do Kinnan flips, and you can have some type of like Hullbreaker Horror. I mean, honestly, for bracket 4, Hullbreaker Horror would probably do it. It would probably still be incredibly difficult without instant speed interaction, but you put 5 Hullbreaker Horrors on the table, you have lethal on each individual player a turn at a time, and every mana dork you cast bounces 5 things to hand. So if you wanted to do that as a like evil bad guy, I'm a turbo villain out, I think that would work stupendously well, but you would need to mix in a few more things that could operate at instant speed so that you could be like, oh yeah, you're gonna remove something, you're gonna board wipe something. Well, what if what if your whole fucking board was gone, dude? So for bracket 2, the trick here, we want to make the game crazy. We don't want the game to end. The default, as you have said it, is I get 5 Bumbleflowers. And now every time I cast a spell, I make everybody's boards crazy. A bunch of people are going to draw cards. I'm also going to draw a ton of cards if I double spell Mana Dorks or something. Um, I'm just gonna try to, off the dome, remember the name of this guy. I worry about this one. I think my intuition is that this card would be a they laugh when you pass the turn and then become relatively upset. But I think that this would be a fair bracket 2 win con because if you got Octomancer as you make. Oh wait, no, this is cast. Fuck. Fuck. If only this was an ETB. My thought was gonna be okay, we give the table 8 million octopi. But we wouldn't even get the gift thing once, because even if we were to get this guy, we would probably get him via the Vanifar ladder. That is a goddamn shame. Okay. Now I know you said you were avoiding ETBs because you wanted threats, not answers. That said, I do think we're going to be likely to. We're in Bant. Bant is about ETBs. There's probably some type of threat we can determine, or some type of threat we can pull out via ETB. So what about this guy? Hear me out, dude. What about Super Renma? I could see I could see this slotting in as a bracket 3 villain of the week. I think this is a lot more potent than people might give it credit for. It's going to create a really weird situation around the table, but at the end of it, you are going to have however many clones you set, um, worth of flying indestructible 5/5s. That's really good. Like that's really good. That's very hard to deal with. Um, People would have to send their voids at each other. This might even be too good. So I think this one might be an option for um we would have to we would have to hold back a little bit because I think dropping 2 of this man pretty funny. I think dropping 3 of this man pretty funny, and the pod is desperately digging for a board wipe. Once you are dropping 4 or more, we're getting into the territory of like, okay, you have soft won the game on turn 4 whenever this Vanifar bullshit happens. But like I've played in a game with a Sentry already. It was fucking funny. We enjoyed it. So I low key believe in this guy. What's other things we can do? We don't want to take particularly long turns. So I don't want to recommend you something that has some type of like let me call out an example of what I don't want to recommend. Very appropriate win condition. The math on this is horrifying, and will result in the longest turns you have ever seen in your life. So this is the type of thing that I don't want us to do. Is there anything? Let's go Commander Bant. Is there anything that would be a good Saboteur effect where we're going to go to combat over and over, and that's going to matter? I don't think we can get to Old Gnawbone, although that is certainly a thought. I don't think we get to Ancient Silver Dragon. Malcolm is going to make your turns abominably long. Ancient Silver Dragon probably also kills you. O'Hare Castlem is very long turns. He's also just plain good. I think Coma is another relatively appropriate threat, especially if you are giving out counters to everybody else's stuff as you're casting your spells. You know, there's like a chance in hell they could quad block, try to stop this guy. But if they don't, you will overwhelm the table really, really quickly. I think that's a solid arch enemy type card. Similar vein, Giant Adaphage. These get out of control in decks that I put it in. that don't even use clones, period. Um, I don't think we can use super state. I almost want to recommend that you go for like honest Thoracle with something like Starwinder or Ancient Blue Dragon. I think the biggest difficulty there is we have to. I don't think we can chain ladder into this for Vanifar, right? Oh, we do have Sun Titan, and we can get up to Emiria Shepherd. Okay, so I think it might be possible. I'm not sure if this would interrupt the loop at all, because quite frankly, I don't want to even attempt to do it. I read through it twice, and it made my brain hurt, and I just kind of accepted what the endpoint of the loop here. Um, okay, so Will Breaker is an example of something we used to have in the deck, because the interaction should be funny, but the endpoints are not funny. Okay. I would not recommend. You called out something like Choco, Secret of Paradise. I would kind of be worried about Choco for turn length considerations because to the point we get, like I think Choco is a pretty solid consideration if you are going to pretend you could not dump out four clones, but I think at tables that know this would start to feel pretty bad because it would very quickly be like, okay, I'm gonna resolve five triggers of three, um, which even if you're a very, very skilled resolver could take longer than you think. So I'm trying to think of things that are not that don't require a lot of decision making. It's more of just like, hey, I do this thing and I can do quick multiplication, but I don't have to ask a lot of questions. Hydra Omnivore is kind of cute. I kind of, I kind of like this man. But this one does feel a bit more like a bracket 3 thing because if you get this, you're probably going to you're probably going to win the game on the next turn if you untap. That feels very bracket 3. You might even legally be in bracket 4. So what could we get that does not represent, we want not enough damage to win the game, but we don't want it to be as resolution heavy as Choco. I still think something in something in the Saboteur effect is going to be appropriate. Okay, okay. Hear me out on the glowing one. People people do hate Mill. I think there's an angle here for bracket 2. Right? You get a million death touchy guys. If you can remove the important blockers, or you can give your own guys flying, right? Oh no, you could just pick your own creature to give it flying. So I think, mm, would this be enough if I got 5 of these and I gave you 20 rad counters? I feel like that has to be enough. Okay, I'm gonna submit this for your consideration at bracket 2. Mill does piss people off, but this is about the fairest way you could be going for a mill win, especially if you don't go for any other mill support, and you're still going to be doing damage, which means you're not going to be doing the mill thing, which causes all the problems, which is like the mill problem is you have four gladiators fighting in an arena. Three of them are going to town on each other with fists and hammers and swords, and then one guy is just pissing in the sand, hoping they slip. That's the mill player. They're not participating on any of the axes of the game that other people are, but glowing one kind of does. Right? We can give them flying when we need to. We can use, what else do we have? We can use Constable of the Realm. We can use Crow's Defense Contractor. And we can open ourselves up to be like, whoo boy, you're drawing a lot of cards, Dylan. And also, you're going to mill 16 next turn. It also allows us to attack the table one by one. It works with. Fuck, it doesn't work with Deep Glow Skate. That is a shame. I think it's still okay, even if it doesn't work with Deep Glow Skate. But I think that stands out to me as abundantly fair. We can throw all of our clones into this. Our opponents have a way to deal with this, right? If we get board wiped, they stop it. If they just have a good blocking situation, they stop it. Even if they can't stop it, it's going to take many, many turns for this to come to fruition. I think probably the biggest difficulty here is this is definitely on the low end, one. And two, some people, when you start milling them, they just fucking freak out and you can't stop it. So this does require a degree of trust and reasonability with the people you play with. Yeah, okay. I keep re-referencing the fucking manifesto. Trying to think of what else. Well, not think. I'm trying to find what other things could we do that are going to be bracket 2 appropriate, that are not going to win the game on the spot, that are going to create some type of like ticking clock that might give us a funny interaction we could do. Hmm. I think Piper Wright might be too weak, but I really like the idea of 8 Velmas beating somebody to death. I really like that idea. And I like I like the idea of I make a clue, right? I get one Piper right through somehow. How? I don't know, but I get one Piper right through. I crack the clue to draw a card, and I get to distribute 8 +1/+1 counters on my creatures. I think that's more aggressive than the glowing one. Points for this one doesn't use the mill strategy. Other points for this one will work more cleanly with Deep Glow Skate because it's going to be dealing with +1/+1 counters. It allows you to pretty freely give away your +1/+1 counters via Miss Bumbleflower because Piper Wright would give you a million +1/+1 counters yourself. Um, Number 3, you get to make a ton of I've got a raging clue jokes because we're going to be holy fuck, are we going to be investigating a lot? This would be great if you own a magnifying glass. I would submit Piper Wright for bracket 2 consideration. Don't like that one. This is an ETB that I'm not a huge fan of. This would be the most confusing turn in the world, but it would get the job done. We would have an incredible number of backup 1 triggers to resolve, and it would net you a lot of power on board. Unfortunately, Metamai the Ageless is not funny at all, but you could take 7 extra turns. That kind of locks you into bracket 4, and I think for bracket 4, we would maybe that is the bracket 4 play, actually. Honestly, like maybe that's what you do. Maybe if you want to do bracket 4 without changing anything else about this deck at all, like we talked about for was it Kinnan or was it something else I had thought of? I think it was something else. Sorry, I'm just back from the gym, so I'm a little bit woozy wobbly. But I think if we wanted to be like crazy, crazy top shelf dickhead, I whip out every clone, I turn them all into Metamai the Ageless. You have 1 turn to stop me, or I am going to take 8 turns in a row. At which point, I will probably spend the second of my 8 turns turning all the Metamai clones into Bumbleflowers, and then I will just kill you with combat damage. I think for bracket 4, that's genuinely funny. Because you already talked about how the default is we get a bunch of copies of Bumbleflower and they can win a low power game eventually. I think going, yeah, that's also how I'm gonna win fringe CEDH games. I kind of like that. I think it's really unlikely you do win because we don't have the interaction or protection or the what have you. Um, but I think that's kind of like a cunty game plan for bracket 4, and I think bracket 4 is where those game plans really thrive. So I'm gonna lock in Metamai the Ageless as one thing you should play. So I think for bracket 4 we have Metamai. I think for and even that, this is still a relatively generous one. I just really like the idea behind it. Um, for bracket 3, I would personally recommend Coma or Giant Ataphage over Choco just because of the turn resolution thing. I think Hydra Omnivore would also work well here. This would be a very, very good, like, I'm going to stick big creature. Can you stop big creature? No? I win. Um, and you could also kind of modulate for the table, like, how many of these do I try to flop out? Which, like, by the way, I typically hate. I typically do not enjoy the fudging DM roll, but I kind of get it for this deck. This is a very, very well built machine, and if you trust yourself to navigate it, I trust you. And then for bracket 2, I think I'm off on Conclave Siege Captain. I really like Glowing One as an A plus Omega fair threat. Like, nobody can say this is too good. Nobody can ever argue this is too good. It does have quite a bit of value for you because you're going to have death touching blockers now, so it's hard for people to use all the cards they get, all the counters they get against you. Um, and I actually wouldn't even be milled. I forgot rads do damage. You could actually just give them crotch rot. Okay, locked in. You have to do this. You have to do this for bracket 2. Um, and then I think Piper Wright is another good bracket 2 option, just because you can say you can't stop the press, and I've got a Raging Clue over and over and over. And the thought of I'm gonna crack 1 clue, so that's 8 +1/+1 counters. God, that makes me happy. God, that pleases me. Do we have any? So I'm going to try to find maybe one better bracket 2 thing because both of these are very weak, but I love weak bracket 2 game plans. Like, my ideal bracket 2 game is like one of those World War II movies where wounded soldiers are like crawling over mud and shit to try to kill each other with like a broken bayonet. Like, that's what I want to have happen in bracket 2. Um I think Virulent Silencer is a little bit better than these other two. You have the same problem of like sometimes bracket 2 players will just fucking crash out, but if you can give these guys flying, 5 of these flying in the air is one player dead. So you may have to modulate how many of these do you get out. It would create kind of good friction because it's not. Let me circle back. The reason I don't enjoy decks that could go harder but don't is that it can be very difficult to make people feel like, because if anybody else notices that you're sandbagging, it takes all the air out of the game. This one, I think there is a little bit of positive friction that doesn't make you, like, doesn't come off as sandbagging as much, because you would have to balance how many clones are Virulent Silencer, how many clones are Bumbleflower, because I still need Bumbleflowers to give these guys flying, to try to give them evasion. And if my opponents have any flying, if my opponents have any reach, they don't get through, they don't get the poison counters on, they don't deal that much damage. Um, So I will again leave this up to you and how you think you can navigate playing a poison win con in bracket 2. But I think that would be up at the top end of like interesting threats. I think the funniest threat is Piper Wright. The fairest threat is the glowing one. And the threadiest threat that is still bracket 2 appropriate is Virulent Silencer. I also just love the idea of telling people you're killing them with tuberculosis. And then we've talked about it for bracket 3, bracket 4. Anybody in the comments, if you have any other good, compelling things it's very funny to have 5 of, please let me know. Otherwise, I wish you the best, and I do hope this helped.